Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Online Presenters Humorous Speech Contest. Now, in a few minutes, you will hear from the speakers who are competing to be our club's champion. Now, there's a little bit of a change because I'm not seeing one of our contestants currently. I'm not seeing Toru, so that means that the speaking order would have changed slightly. And now instead of 4 contestants, we are now down to 3. Before I start though, just a bit of housekeeping rules. In order to maintain a quality environment for all, please leave yourself on mute. ON-MUTE, not UN-MUTE. There's a difference. It's important. Unless you're a contestant or a contest official and need to speak at that time. Also, as a courtesy to our speakers and other Toastmasters, we ask that while keeping your camera on for the duration of the contest, please remain cognizant of your background. It is a humorous contest, but certain type of humor is not very Toastmasterly, right? Now, the chat will be disabled for the contest, but please feel free to utilize your emojis to laugh along, to applaud, to let everyone know exactly how you feel about the speeches. After the speaker has commenced their presentation, no one will be permitted to enter the meeting, and the Zoom master will admit attendees only during the minute of silence. For our timer today, Miss Antoinette Trim, she will be utilizing the raise hand feature to allow her to be easily located, or I saw her using the raise hand feature to be easily located, but don't worry, it's online presenters. Our speakers will figure it out, right? The timing for the speech only starts when the contestants gives their first definite verbal or non-verbal cue after being introduced. Now, should a contestant lose connectivity once they have started their speech, they're expected to log back on in 2 minutes and continue their speech. I'll instruct the timers to pause their timing for a maximum of 2 minutes to allow the contestants to rejoin. Now, no signal will be given for the overtime period. As it's the humorous speech contest, I know we know the times, but I'm going to go over them anyway. It's 5 to 7 minutes. Now, a contestant will be disqualified if the speech is less than 4 minutes and 30 seconds or more than 7 minutes and 30 seconds. And a contestant is not disqualified until their time is not qualified. I said disqualified. Haha, humorous moment. They are not qualified until they reach 4 minutes and 30 seconds and is not disqualified until the time reaches 7 minutes and 31 seconds. The time signals will be displayed and are as follows. Antoinette, you ready to go with me? Green will be displayed at 5 minutes. Beautiful, and remain displayed for 1 minute. Yellow will be displayed at 6 minutes and remain displayed for 1 minute. And red will be displayed at 7 minutes and remain until the conclusion of the speech. Again, we're not going to know if we go over time. For our chief judge, and this is important, protests and disqualifications. Protests are limited to eligibility, originality, and reference to another contestant's speech, and must only be lodged by the contest voting judges and or the contestants. Any protest must be received prior to the contest being adjourned, and no protest will be considered from audience members. Let me repeat. No protests will be considered from audience members. The contest chair, I have some power, can disqualify a contestant based on eligibility. In this case, I may just have to with contestant number 1 because I'm at the end of my presentation and I don't see him. But for everybody else, I can tell you they're from a club in good standing and they're a member in good standing. Announcement of the contest winners is final unless the list of winners is announced incorrectly. I will do that. It is me. However, fortunately, this will be done by our chief judge, so we don't have to worry about them having to correct me in case I'm wrong. Now, the chief judge ballot counters or timers are permitted to immediately interrupt to correct the error. You'll be pleased to know that our chief judge today for this contest is David Carr. Mr. Chief Judge, have all your judges been briefed?
My judges have been briefed. They have been assigned a digital ballot because we do things digitally at Online Presenters. And hopefully that will all go smoothly. And if not, I have a ballot counter. Evie will help me chase people down and beat the votes out of them, however we have to do it, so that you get a nice clean result that we'll be able to announce for this meeting. And I did want to reiterate, we want to encourage people to keep their cameras on. So if they can't hear you laughing, at least let them see you laughing in this speech, because I know that's been one of the complaints about trying to do a humorous contest online. We got to try and give these folks some feedback. So if you're enjoying what they're saying, try and show it. And if you, we will ask you to remain muted, because too many mics open creates chaos in an online meeting. We can't have that. I think that's all I have to report. Contest Master.
Excellent. So, Mr. Chief Judge, are we ready to proceed?
I believe we are ready to proceed.
Beautiful. Now, as you can see by my background today, we're doing reverse silent error. Usually, it's the person on screen who's silent and the audience is laughing. Well, for now, it's the opposite way. We are the ones who are going to be the mimes and muted and using our emojis to represent our feelings, but there will be no sound. To begin, the speaking order was chosen as follows and will be placed in the chat. However, contestant number 1 is no longer available, and therefore the speaking order has changed. In first place, or first speaker, will be Jim Barber. Our second speaker will be Kim Leeming, and our third speaker will be Andriy Smolenko. Now, Madam Timer, are we ready? We're ready. Contestant number 2 now on. Jim Barber, can you see the timer? Remember, it's reverse vaudeville. The audience is quiet. You actually have to speak.
Yeah, I'm a little slow, but yes, I can see Antoinette in all her glory.
Beautiful. Jim Barber, that age-old question is even older. That age-old question is even older, Jim Barber.
Thank you, Madam Contest Master. It happened almost 10 years ago, but I still remember it like it was yesterday. I received a letter from the United States government. Now, I don't know about you, but when I get a letter from the government, it's almost always bad news. This one was too. I read the letter. It started off innocently enough. Dear Mr. Barber, the United States government is pleased to tell you that James Harry Barber Jr., that's me, has been certified to be eligible for Medicare, which is a good thing. Normally, health insurance is a good thing to have. But the problem is, I have to be 65 to be eligible for Medicare. So when I read this letter, I didn't read, you're eligible for Medicare. I read, congratulations, you are old. This wasn't the first time that I had read this sort of thing. You see, I received a similar letter a few years before that. Some of you may have seen that one also. It comes very nicely. It says, congratulations. I'm sorry. Our Sergeant at Arms said at the beginning that because we are a diverse club, we need to be aware of offensive language. We don't want to say anything that somebody could take offense at, but there is no way that I can continue without using a 4-letter word. So here goes. If it disqualifies me, that's just the way it goes. I received a letter from AARP, the American Association of Retired Persons. And it said, congratulations, you are eligible for membership in AARP. But of course, what I saw was, congratulations, you are old. I can't escape it. A couple of weeks ago, it was Mother's Day. And so I offered to take my wife, Grace, out to dinner, celebrate Mother's Day. I asked her where she wanted to go, and she said, well, she wanted to go someplace, try some international cuisine. So I took her to Taco Bell, and we looked at the menu, selected a couple of items, talking to the lady behind the counter, girl behind the counter, told her what we wanted. She was very efficient, took her orders, everything. It was a pleasant dining experience. My wife was going to be thrilled with this. But then the girl behind the counter, she perkily smiled at me and said, sir, would you like your senior citizens discount? Come on. She didn't ask to see my driver's license. She didn't have any other clue. She just arbitrarily said, would you like your senior citizens discount? I had been having a bad day, and that was just the topper to it all. I was so angry. I was so irate. I could not stand it any longer. I leaned across the counter and I said, how much is the discount? I think part of the problem is I'm on the team, but I'm not wearing the team uniform. So I'm correcting that. Okay, now I look the part a little better. The thing is, there are 3 really lousy things about getting old. The first is that you tend to repeat yourself. You say the same things, you tell the same stories to the same people over and over and over and over again, and people get tired of it. I can understand that. But that's not all. The second bad thing, the second really lousy thing about getting old is that you can't handle technology anymore. Technology is going crazy. It's nothing I can handle anymore. And of course, the third thing is really the worst of all. The third thing is I get distracted so easily. Used to, I had laser focus, and now it's what does that button do? Oh, whoop. Sorry, that isn't what I wanted. Okay. There are 3 really lousy things about getting old. The first is that you start to repeat yourself. You tell the same old stories to the same people over and over and over again. But the second thing is that technology is such a problem. It's amazing how many things go wrong when you're least expecting it. That wasn't supposed to happen, but okay. All right, okay. Yellow light, I'm running out of time. Before I want to leave you with one thing. I've talked about the bad things about getting old, but there are some good things. And there's one thing in particular. It's almost a fundamental truth. And I want to share it with you. If you don't remember anything else that I said tonight, please, I want you to remember this. There are 3 really lousy things about getting old. The first is that, oh, darn. We're back. Anyway, Madam Contest Master.
Contestant number 2, Kim Leeming. Can you see the timer?
Actually, I cannot. Oh, yes, I do.
Awesome. Kim Leaming, Blondini's International Flag Collection. Blondini's International Flag Collection, Kim Leaming.
Thank you, Mr. Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, and dear guests. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a confession to make. I am totally clueless about how all this magic stuff works because I'm Blondini. But I think this magician gig is working out for me. You guys are the first to know. I just signed on with my first talent agent. I'm proud to tell you that I'm his first 2-legged client. He must be a good talent agent because I just signed my first contract with HBO. I am really excited about it. I think we negotiated a great deal too. It's only $19 a month and they even threw in Cinemax. That's probably enough of my bragging. Let's get on to my speech. First of all, I'd like to point out. Secondly, I would like to say this to you all, this. Thirdly, for the hard of hearing, I repeat that. Fourthly, here are a few small words for you all, if and at how I. Fifthly, here's a joke for the telepathics. Sixthly, here's a joke for the dyslexics. Jim Bim Ballygaga Doodah. Seventhly, here's a joke for the paranoiacs. He's behind you. Eighthly, I have to admit that's as high as I know how to count because I'm Blondini. I'm traveling a lot these days. Of course, with an act like mine, you have to keep moving. Do you like to travel? I see a lot of heads nodding. Yes. What a coincidence. I do too. In fact, I collect flags of all the places I'd like to visit. Of course, these days, it's a digital collection. Tonight, I'm going to share details about my life with you using my flag collection. My husband, Jim, and I recently celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary. Even after all these years, I am happy to say that we still Ecuador each other. In fact, I often say to him, you can still ring my bell, Jim. There you go. You can still ring my bell, Jim. To celebrate our anniversary, Jim asked me out for a night on the town. I said, yeah, man, that sounds like fun. He dressed up for the occasion. He looked very cute in his Panama hat. Before going to dinner, he took me to a local bar to get some before dinner drinks, like a Canada Dry, a chocolate Malta, or Zambia, some beer. We ended up drinking beer. Then we drank Samoa beer. We reminisced about people we knew and things we had done in the past. Jim said, do you remember those 2 girls that came to our wedding who were both named Anne? I said, yes, I think you mean Angola and Antigua. How could I forget? I may be blonde, but I do have a Bahrain. You know, I was in Borneo yesterday. The 2 Anns are the ones who threw a party for our friend Ben. Jim asked, didn't they fly Ben in for that party? I said, yes, they did. They flew him in from Bosnia-Herzegovina. By the way, can you think of a better way to get that country in the story? I can't because I'm Blondini. By that point, we were starting to Taiwan on. So much so that we were both starting to get silly. We decided to get a bite to eat since we were both hungry. We weren't sure where to eat. We knew we didn't want fast food. You know, a place where you get your food to go. Jim said he knew of a nice restaurant where they serve ya, and they use fine china. Before we left, I went to powder my nose. Apparently, it took me a long time. When I came back, I heard Jim say to someone, well, she's a woman. You can't rush her. Then he turned to me and told me that I was worth the Kuwait. When we got to the restaurant, we perused the menu and ordered. The dinner was going great. Then suddenly, the air turned chilly. The waiter said the kitchen staff was Jamaican him crazy. He went on to say that the head cook was being a real turkey. Jim took that as our cue to leave. He said, check, please. Then he ordered an Uber. The Uber driver, Mark, quickly arrived. Jim asked him, can ya take us back to our den, Mark? He said he could, but that he was having a problem with his car. Luckily, it just needed some grease. He quickly fixed it, and off we went. Once we got back to the house, Jim said it was so nice to bask in our love once again. After all, I'm a guy and you're a girl. I said, oh, man, I adore you too. It was then that we both knew that everything was going to be okay. Hey, Rabbit, what are you doing here? This is a perfect opportunity for me to demonstrate an old saying. Here today, gone tomorrow. In keeping with the international theme, I'd like to tell you one last story about a Spanish magician I once saw. He was wonderful. He started his show by waving his magic wand, and then he counted. Uno, dos, and poof, he disappeared without a trace. With that, I will disappear too. Back to you, Mr. Contest Chair.
Our next contestant number 3, Andriy Smolenko. Can you see the timer?
Yes, I can.
Andriy Smolenko, don't repeat my mistakes. Don't repeat my mistakes, Andriy Smolenko.
Thank you very much, Madam Contest Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, did you know that most of the children born in the United States are born already with American flag in their hands? Yes, because they're just so patriotic. But did you know that many children in India are already born in a little chili hot pepper in their hands? Exactly, because they like hot food. And did you know that most of the children born in Ukraine are born with a little tiny bottle of vodka in their hands? Because, as you can guess, people like drinking. But not according to my dad. According to my dad, about Ukraine at least, is common misconception. Babies born in the Ukraine are born with 2 bottles of vodka in their hands because, as you can guess, they like drinking. You see, my dad has shaped my life in many ways. He taught me how to negotiate properly. He taught me about the birds and the bees, how to work hard, and even how to change and choose the right women. But most importantly, he known to me by one thing and one thing only. He always told me, son, don't repeat my mistakes. The first time I came across this amazing slogan, I was about 5 years old, and I was the only child in my family born in Ukraine. Mom and dad, accountants, and I felt lonely. I came to my dad and said, Dad, can I have a brother or sister, please? My dad looked at me, said, well, son, you have a choice to make. You can have a brother or sister, or you can have a push bike. The choice is yours. Guess what I choose? Precisely, push bike, of course. A few years later, I choose a motor scooter, and I'm still an only child in my family. Moving back later, at 10, I became a young criminal, young offender. I wanted to be a firefighter. We collected all the fire extinguisher in our neighborhoods, nice, big and foamy ones, about 20 kids with fire extinguisher in the forests, quenching that fire. And then some of the neighbors saw us, reported us to the police, and yes, I was a young offender at the age of 10. And Dad told me, son, don't follow my mistakes. Moving a few years of my life, I turned 13. And then my dad decided to have a chat with me about the birds and the bees. I still remember that moment. I sat in the living room and my mom was nagging him from the bedroom. Come on, go and talk to Andriy. It's time. Then my dad walked into the room, sat in front of me and said, son, I have a very serious talk with you now. You're a big boy, you're growing, you like girls. And then, if you want to talk about anything about life and how the children born, go and talk to your mother. And he went off. Thank you, Dad. I just imagined the same talk with my son right now. He's 11. Hi, son. Do you want to talk about birds and the bees and how the children made? Yes, Dad. What would you like to know? He would say exactly that thing. There is another thing that I'm really grateful to my dad. He taught me really hard work. When I was about 20 years old, working for 2 weeks, non-stop, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, in a big massive warehouse where we were stacking shelf with empty bottles. 2 weeks non-stop, and I made about $200 American at that time. Hard, really, really hard work. And then, of course, being excited, I came to my dad and said, look, Dad, I've just made that money. What do you think I should do? Son, don't repeat my mistakes. Don't spend that money on women and booze. I didn't know what else I could do with that money at that time. So I decided to listen to my dad and spend money on women and booze, not in Kiev, but in London. Thanks to my daddy, I saved that money in my pocket, bought the tickets, and went to London on sabbatical. And I spent them, yes, you probably can guess what happened with that money. Ladies and gentlemen, my dad is turning 68 this year. He taught me many, many things in life about negotiating, about how to talk to my own children about birds and the bees, about hard work and how not to spend the money. At the same time, one of the most important lessons that I learned, that doesn't matter what I try, doesn't matter what I do, I am going to make mistakes. And Dad, I'm sorry. I have probably failed you in many, many ways. I repeated your mistakes. But one thing that I learned, one really, really important thing to me, what you taught me, Daddy, is that in case of doubt, I have my son now. Son, don't repeat my mistakes. Back to you, Madam Contest Chair.
to announce, I'm going to ask that we all unmute and give our contestants a rousing round of applause and some woot woot up in here.
Woohoo! Yay!
And I now turn control over to our chief judge to put us out our misery and let us know who won.
Okay. And keep those mics unmuted. There's some drum roll duty that you're going to need to be able to do. There is some applause that we'd like people to be able to hear as we go along. So here are the online presenters. Humorous speech contest winners for 2023. Starting out with third place. That would be Kim Leeming.
Yay!
Yay.
Yay!
Thank you.
And second place,
Woohoo!
Andriy Smolenko.
All right, Andriy.
Yay!
Thank you.
And in first place, some of you can do process of elimination. You might have something figured out by about now. But in first place, it is Jim Barber.
Hey! Congrats, Jim!
Go, Jim!
Yay!
Hey, David, our videos are still locked out.
Yeah, Joni may have some stuff to share later in terms of official certificates, but those are the results. Congratulations to all the contestants and to the audience for being here and making this a contest. Now, to those who say that you can't do a humorous speech contest online, what do you think? Did we do your humorous speech contest online?
Heck yeah.
All right.